The dimly lit bar hummed with low chatter and the clinking of glasses, a typical night in a small town watering hole. Most of the regulars were lost in their own worlds, until he walked in. Dressed in a simple t-shirt and jeans, the young black soldier carried himself with quiet confidence. His posture, his presence, it all spoke of discipline, of strength. But to a group of bikers huddled near the pool table, he was nothing more than an outsider. At first, it was just looks, long, measuring glances, a smirk here, a whispered comment there. But then one of them decided to take it further. A snide remark cut through the air, loud enough for everyone to hear. Laughter followed. The soldier paused, setting his drink down. The air shifted. Tension thickened. All eyes were on him now. Most men would have backed down, ignored it, or left. But this wasn't most men. Instead of reacting with anger, the soldier did something that no one, especially the bikers, expected. The entire bar fell silent, waiting for his next move. What happened next left everyone stunned, turning an ugly moment into something they'd never forget. The soldier turned slowly, his calm gaze locking onto the biker who had spoken. He wasn't rattled, not even a little. If anything, he seemed amused, as if he had seen this kind of thing before. The bikers, sensing no fear, leaned in, testing the waters. One of them, a tall man with a thick beard and leather vest, stepped closer, his smirk widening. "What's the matter? Cat got your tongue," he sneered, his voice dripping with mockery. The others chuckled, tapping their beer bottles against the table. The soldier didn't flinch. He simply picked up his drink, took a slow sip, and set it down again, his eyes never leaving them. Someone from across the bar muttered, "This ain't gonna end well." A few people shifted in their seats, pretending not to watch but unable to look away. The bartender, an older man who had seen plenty of fights in his time, wiped down the counter with a knowing sigh. Then the soldier did something unexpected. He smiled. A small, knowing smile that only seemed to confuse the bikers even more. He leaned forward just slightly and spoke, his voice calm, steady. "You sure you want to do this?" The room went silent. The bearded biker's grin faltered for just a second, but he covered it up with a rough chuckle. He glanced at his friends, looking for backup. One of them, a stocky guy with a faded skull tattoo on his arm, leaned in with a smirk. "Or what? You gonna teach us a lesson, tough guy?" he said, his voice thick with sarcasm. The soldier didn't answer right away. He just tilted his head slightly, studying them, as if he was deciding whether they were worth his time. The silence stretched, and for the first time, the bikers seemed unsure. They were used to people backing down, making excuses, or losing their cool. But this man wasn't giving them any of that. From across the bar, a woman with sharp eyes and a leather jacket watched closely, her fingers lightly gripping her glass. She had seen these bikers stir up trouble before, but something about this night felt different. Something about the soldier's stillness, his measured control, made her uneasy. Not because she feared for him, but because she feared for them. The bartender cleared his throat. "Why don't we all just enjoy our drinks?" he suggested, his voice careful. But the bearded biker wasn't ready to let it go. He stepped even closer, close enough that the tension in the air was thick enough to cut. "Come on, soldier," he said, his voice dropping lower. "Show us what you got." The soldier exhaled slowly, his fingers tapping against the rim of his glass. Still calm, still unshaken. Then with deliberate ease he stood up. The soldier's chair scraped against the wooden floor as he rose, slow and steady. The room felt smaller now, the air heavier. Every movement he made was measured, controlled, like a man who knew exactly what he was capable of. His eyes never wavered from the bearded biker, and for a brief moment, something flickered in the biker's expression. Doubt. But he covered it quickly, puffing out his chest. "What's the matter?" He taunted. "You need permission to speak, soldier boy." A few of his friends chuckled, but the laughter wasn't as confident as before. The woman in the leather jacket shifted in her seat, her fingers drumming against her glass. The bartender, who had seen more bar fights than he could count, wiped his hands on a rag and took a step back. He knew the look in the soldier's eyes. It wasn't fear, wasn't even anger. It was something far more dangerous. The soldier finally spoke, his voice calm but firm. "You think this is about pride?" He shook his head. "It's not." He took a step forward, his presence alone forcing the bikers to tense. "But you keep pushing, and I promise, you're gonna regret it." The bearded biker scoffed, but his fists clenched at his sides. He wasn't backing down, even if something deep inside was telling him he should. The entire bar seemed frozen in place, waiting, watching. Then in the span of a breath, something changed. The soldier's posture shifted, barely noticeable, but enough. The bearded biker's instincts kicked in, and before he could think, he made his move. Gasps filled the room. And in an instant, everything exploded. Before the bearded biker's fist could even fully swing, the soldier moved, fast. Too fast. In a blur, he sidestepped, his hand catching the biker's wrist with effortless precision. The biker stumbled forward, his own momentum working against him. And for a split second, the entire bar seemed to hold its breath. But the soldier didn't throw a punch. He didn't slam the man to the ground. Instead, he just tightened his grip, firm but controlled, and leaned in. His voice was low, calm, but laced with something that sent a chill through the biker's spine. "You don't want this," the soldier murmured. "Walk away." The bearded biker yanked his arm back, his face red, but he didn't try swinging again. The realization had hit him. This man wasn't some random guy at the bar. He was trained, disciplined, and clearly holding back. Hard. Then, before anyone could process what had just happened, the front door creaked open. A tall figure stepped inside, scanning the room. He was older, his grizzled face shadowed under the dim bar lights, and his vest bore the same emblem as the bikers. But something about him was different. He wasn't smirking. He wasn't posturing. His eyes locked onto the soldier, and in an instant, the tension shifted. The bikers recognized him immediately. Their leader. And from the way he was staring at the soldier, it was clear this wasn't the first time they had met. The bar fell completely silent. The bikers, once cocky and loud, shifted uneasily as their leader stepped forward. His eyes never left the soldier, and the weight of unspoken history filled the room. The bearded biker, still fuming from his failed attack, opened his mouth to speak, maybe to explain, maybe to save face. But the older man raised a hand, stopping him cold. The leader took a slow breath. "Didn't expect to see *U* here," he said, his voice low and unreadable. The soldier didn't flinch. He simply met the man's gaze with the same steady calm he had shown all night. "Didn't expect to be here," he replied, "but here we are." A long pause stretched between them. The tension was no longer about a bar fight, it was something deeper. The bikers glanced between their leader and the soldier, confusion creeping into their faces. Then the leader did something no one expected. He *loft* a quiet, knowing chuckle. "You haven't changed," he said, shaking his head. The bearded biker frowned. "Wait, you *no* this guy?" The leader's expression hardened. "Yeah, I know him." He turned to the soldier. "Afghanistan, 2010. We were on the same side once." Murmurs rippled through the room. The biker stiffened, trying to process what that meant. The soldier held the leader's gaze. "And now?" he asked. The older man sighed, rubbing his temple. Then after a moment, he turned to his crew. "This is over," he said firmly. "We walk away." The bearded biker looked like he wanted to argue, but one glance at his leader shut him down. Slowly, the group backed off, grabbing their drinks, pretending like none of it had happened. The soldier watched them go, his face unreadable. The leader hesitated, then spoke one last time. "Some fights ain't worth it," he muttered. "Not against someone who's already proved himself." With that, he turned and walked out, his men following. The bar was left in stunned silence. The woman in the leather jacket finally exhaled. "What asterisk was asterisk that?" she muttered. The soldier just shook his head, picked up his drink, and took a sip. "Old ghosts," he said. "Some never stay buried." The tension in the bar slowly eased as conversations resumed, though the energy had shifted. The bartender gave the soldier a knowing nod, as if silently acknowledging what had just unfolded. The woman in the leather jacket took another sip of her drink, still watching him with quiet curiosity. "You've got a way of handling things," she said. "Most guys would have thrown a punch." The soldier shrugged. "Some fights aren't worth it." He echoed the biker leader's words. "And some fights are already won before they even start." She studied him for a moment, then smirked. "Guess that's what discipline looks like." He didn't reply, just took another sip of his drink, his mind elsewhere. The past had a funny way of creeping up when you least expected it. Seeing that man again, someone he had once fought alongside, was a reminder of how life had taken them down different roads. As he stood to leave, the bartender called out, "Drinks on the house tonight." The soldier gave a small nod of appreciation before heading for the door. As he stepped outside into the cool night air, he exhaled deeply. Another night, another lesson. And with that he walked away, disappearing into the darkness, ready for whatever came next.